Property Portal Marketing. I am, of course, with Simona, and we've got Alistair, who is joining us today from the Agency Costa Blanca, one of the most respected luxury real estate agents on or in the region. Welcome, Alistair. Thank you very much for joining us. How are we?
Thank you for having me. Yeah, I'm good. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Good. Excellent. So we are going to discuss the golden visa situation, which is obviously being abolished by the Spanish government on the 3rd of April 2025. Quite an important topic, probably more important for you, Alistair, because purely from the property price range, which, as we know, with the Spanish golden visa was over 500,000, which caters to your market quite well, and also from obviously from a non-EU perspective as well. From your perspective, how do you think this is going to affect your market and your sort of ambitions this year?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's not ideal. Last year we wrote 2 visas for clients from the US. I mean, our market, predominantly in our area, is very Northern European, but we are seeing an increased amount of non-European or non-EU people wanting to come into this area, predominantly from the US. And obviously us being a part of a global US franchise, we do get more probably US clients than a lot of others here. So it's not, it's not ideal. If you look at the statistics that the government issue as a justification to why they need to get rid of it, it looks like on the face of it, not a lot of visas have been granted for specific property purchases in our area. However, more and more people, if I take our part of Spain as an example, more and more people want to move here. And I think the advantage of being able to do that through a property purchase, obviously in terms of being able to bring your family, the ease in which it was done. I mean, the transaction could take weeks rather than months and months and months. So it was quite a simple process. And I suppose a large proportion of the lawyers here were used to doing those kind of transactions. So yeah, there will be an impact. There's always been other ways, and there are other ways that you can come through. But I just think now it's a case of why get rid of something completely. It's like anything, study the data, and then if you need to increase the value of the requirements or do something, these things are, it's just carte blanche. So now obviously it's gone. So we're now working with our immigration specialists to try and find other avenues that we can offer our clients.
Yeah, it is bizarre because, I mean, if you look at foreign investment as a whole, it plays a significant contribution in terms of the overall economy, in terms of obviously real estate, in terms of new experiences, culturally. There's just so much to it. And it's surprising that they decided to abolish it, given that there was a significant increase in the number of applications over the last 2 years. So if you think about the increase in economy that had, and and that is now going to be in probably lost in some way. Yes, you say there's other ways that people will be able to come over. But yeah, it's quite surprising. I mean, there were 2,017 visas approved in 2022, 3,273 visas approved in 2023. And in the first 10 months of 2024, the Spanish authorities granted a total of 780 golden visas.
I think Transparency International had a report saying there were almost 6,000 granted.
Okay.
So I know the government said, so basically we have 2 figures. The Council of Ministers said around 3,273 visas were granted in 2023. Yeah. And then we have a report from Transparency International saying that around 6,000 golden visa were approved in 2023.
I was going to say that when you've got an average investment per applicant of 657,000 euros, that's a lot of money that's going into the country.
Well, it's
and obviously from an ease of access as well, when you can bring your family over and things like that. So look, how are you going to change your marketing now to reach those people? I mean, you are part of, as you've mentioned, you are part of a global network in the US, which is going to help you massively and probably has already to date. But how are you going to change your marketing now to reach those other people and to say to them, you can still come over, and these are the ways that you're able to do that?
Yeah, I mean, of course, there are options available. It isn't just now that that's gone, people can't come. There's various ways in which you still can come over. we are seeing more and more of an increase of people taking residency in Andorra, for example, and then traveling down and spending a lot of time here in the Costa Blanca. We're probably five hours away. Whilst that's not a permanent idea, it's a short-term option. However, we're just going to have to look at the more traditional routes. Obviously, they introduced the nomad visa last year, which is starting to gain some traction. It's not the easiest at the moment. It's like everything. It's cumbersome. The more they write, the more they think, well, maybe we need to refine this or tweak that. I mean, we've spoken with the immigration team at length about it. And listen, before the Golden Visa program, people were moving here. People will move here post Golden Visa program. It's just that initial surge, I suppose. For us, our client base predominantly is, as you rightly said, it's, 750,000 euros plus. Most of the business we do is in excess of €1 million. The clients that generally spend that money have ways and means in which to move in and around the countries. As I said, the easiest option so far, non-lucrative visa. That's more for retiree basis. People because you cannot work in Spain if you take the non-lucrative visa option. But with Nomad, there is still an opportunity for you to bring your family. And I think that is really important for people that want to come lock, stock and barrel here. So it's just working, because it's like everything. When something dies down, something else will come. And it may be, as we know in Spain, it takes a change in Parliament or something to happen, or local autonomous regions suddenly decide that this is a great idea. They start to lobby, put pressure, and then slowly but surely the Golden Visa could come back in a different incarnation, maybe with a minimum investment of €1 million, or maybe with a million.
Yeah, there was talk of that, wasn't there? There was talk of
last year they wanted to increase 1 million.
Yeah, which to be honest, if I actually think of our region as in isolation, the two that we did last year were properties in excess of that amount. Most of the US buyers that we have coming over, that's kind of the minimum amount that they're spending anyway. It's a huge amount of money, don't get me wrong, but by comparison to what that buys you in certain markets in the US, it's not a huge amount of money anymore. So from an investment point of view, that's okay. So whilst it will have an impact, as I said, we only did 2 last year, so it's not, we're not too overly concerned about it, but I think there needs to be something, because as I said, it isn't just the fact that people now can't come on that, it's the wider economy that always suffers. People that come on holiday generally spend 30% more than people that live here full time, but people that live here full time spend money all year round. And when you've got pools and gardeners and going to the shops or supermarkets or buying cars, the wider economy suffers. And it doesn't take much for that to start having an impact. And when you look at certainly our region and the east coast of Spain as a whole, that pretty much drives a majority of the economy for most of the country, so it's crazy in a way.
I think there is a point to raise here, and I know that you've raised it already, which is good, but Spain always has this, there is that love affair with Spain, isn't there? Indeed. I mean, take the visa situation out, right? People will still buy there. There's been a love affair with the Brits there for the last 15, 20 years, right? There is a love affair now with the Americans. There is a love affair now with the Poles. There is a love affair now and that there has been with the Chinese, with Ukrainians, Iranian. Everybody is looking at Spain as kind of the number one country in which to buy their dream home. So I suppose that is a big, big positive, and it will always be there.
It will, but it comes down to how, not to get all political on it, but how does Spain want to project itself to the world as a whole? I mean, ultimately,
we can talk for days about politics.
Off camera, I suppose you might get some other views, but on camera, let's try and keep it clean and tidy. The reality is, I've been doing real estate here on and off for nearly 20 years, and you always see a change of market. But I think the Golden Visa wasn't here when we started, but we were then part of Europe, certainly from a Brit's point of view. Now we're not, obviously considered a third country. Then the Golden Visa route has been probably the most utilised for permanent residency. But there will always be something. But you're absolutely right. The love affair with Spain has always been, certainly from the British point of view. But now you have the Dutch, you have the Belgium, you have French. Obviously, in our area, we have a lot of wealthy Madrileños that come here through the summer, or people from Valencia, they have holiday homes here. So, our community, if you like, at my daughter's school, which is the international school here, 56 flags outside in terms of representation from 56 countries. And that's incredible on its own. So all of those haven't come on Golden Visa. So, there are ways in order to be here and to live in Spain. It's just something that's on us. And as I said, the media like to sensationalize things. When the dust settles and you speak to a good immigration advisor and talk about your options, there's always a way around it. But people love Spain. People want to come here. The Brits have had a love affair with it, and now the rest of the world are.
Particularly the Americans as well.
Yeah,
I mean, I know that, and I've had a number of conversations with you this year about that, and to a degree last year as well. And there seems to be, again, I don't want to get political about it, but there seems to be so much anger with politicians right now, and especially with the US. I mean, a lot of people are looking to move to Spain because Donald Trump's coming in, right? A lot of, obviously, in the UK, you've got the situation with Labour government going after people's taxes. And what's the guy in the UK who runs that? Used to run Pimlico Plumbers, Charlie something. I can't remember his name, but I don't know why he stands out, but he does. And he was saying that he's now moving to Spain and he's looking to move his family to Spain and things like that. But yeah, I didn't want to get political, but there's always situations.
Our taxes are not the lowest, but we seem to have this way of life that everybody embraces. I mean, everybody talks about mañana and siesta and everything else. The reality is very different to that. Yeah, okay, there are.
I never had a siesta when I lived in Spain.
No, me neither. No, I don't think I've had one ever. In 20 years. But maybe we're doing something wrong. Maybe we should have siestas. Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong when it comes to taxes. So for non-lucrative visa, I know you no longer have to maintain tax residence in Spain to retain your non-lucrative visa. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, you can't earn in Spain, so you need to be able to support yourself. So the requirement to entry was always lower, but the caveat with that is you cannot then draw income from Spain. It has to be down. I don't know whether there's been a change of law from what you're referencing to. If I'm really honest, it's a very, very technical subject. And I think you could speak to 10 different people and 9 of those 10 would have a slightly different interpretation of what that actual law is. I think the reality is, until you deal with somebody that puts your application in, then they read the application and then they come back with a certain set of questions. I don't think any of those questions that have ever been asked seem to correlate with the next set of questions. So my advice to anybody looking at non-lucrative would be to make sure that they do not need to work in Spain. If they need to work in Spain, then they can't apply for non-lucrative. Then they need to look at another option. But yeah, I think you are right. Something else is coming. But as I said, something could change next week.
Yeah,
that's the reality. And in Spain, it usually does. There's always
the sun is always there. Come on.
Yeah, but it's
the sun is there. Lovely weather.
It's raining today. That's probably why I'm grumpy.
It's about time. I think the digital nomad visa, I think, was a game changer as well.
Yeah, it's very good.
And a lot of people kind of looked at that.
Yeah, and the advantage of it is you can bring your family, although like everything, Spain like to do their due diligence and they have their bureaucratic ways. So it's not an easy visa to get working. They do like to do their research on the company that you're employed in and so on and so forth. So I think you need a friendly employer, first and foremost, from the company that you work for. But yeah, it is possible. And we are doing a few, and there are a few in the pipeline. So that is possible. But listen, but this is the crazy thing. Why introduce a nomad visa, but take away a golden visa? Nomad visa means there's no real requirement to entry. Therefore, by cancelling a €500,000 property transaction, then you're taking stamp duty away. So you're taking local taxes away. Local taxes again go into the local economy. It's just, it just doesn't make sense. Why offer something else and then take away the actual thing that works and services the immediate local economy by paying property taxes? There's no requirement through nomad visa to own a property, as far as I'm aware. So
yeah. With all of this, it can sometimes. I mean, the best thing to do is always to speak to a specialist. And I know that you guys compared to a lot of other traditional estate agents, because of the types of clients that you deal with. You have access to, obviously you have access to lawyers, but you have access to visa specialists, you have access to wealth managers, you have access to tax advisors, you have access to all of this information. So actually, yes, it will have an impact, but as you say, there's always a way around it, and there's always people that you can talk to get the information that you need, which is a good thing. And look, the love affair is always going to be there as well, and there's always going to be the sunshine and the beach and all that kind of stuff, and the cost of living, which is massive right now.
Yeah.
And of course the standard of education and all of that kind of thing. So
I think it's a bit of everything. I mean, it's a safe, family-driven environment. I think one of the things that attracts people to Spain, regardless of how you get here, and you can get here, it's just a mindset. Okay, that door is closed, but we can still get here. We just need to look at this option, or we need to do this option. But when you get here, the actual reason that all of us are here, I'm an expat living here, I've been here, as I said, for a long time now. And the reason that we came is because I wanted to originally, when I came, try the culture, try and live somewhere different. And slowly but surely, we went back to the UK, and then we came back again. We wanted our daughter to be raised here. We wanted her to go to school here. She's fluent in 3 languages. She's immersed in the culture. We have friends from all over the world, and I think that kind of environment is the environment that really deep down 90% of people want to be involved in. It's a safe place to live, comparatively speaking, I think, to some of the major cities in London. Obviously, the weather plays a big part, but it isn't just the weather. It's much more than that. I think the outdoor living is something that you embrace. The fact from June to probably mid-September, you can't really be inside. It's just too hot to be inside. You need to be outside, and then it's too hot to be outside. So you go in or you pull. But it's so it's there's always something, and it is. Listen, it's an inconvenience, but as I said, there are options, and there will be something else, and it always takes, and we always say, be careful what you wish for, and it will only take a drop in economic revenue from the autonomous communities as a result of things happening for there to be a lobbied change for something else to come in. And as I said, and as you mentioned earlier, even if it is an increase in the minimum threshold, or it's not granted in certain areas, or whatever, I wouldn't have thought it's goodbye forever. Well, certainly not, because if the other party were in, we wouldn't be having this conversation. That's clear, because they wouldn't get rid of it. So yeah.
Whilst we've got you, I and again, you and me have had conversations on this, but I think that that over the next sort of couple of years, you will also see a big trend in more and more people looking to move to Spain on a permanent basis rather than buying holiday homes.
Yeah, 100%.
Not just from a political point of view, but there's a number of other factors that will come in. Do you think that's also going to be the case for you guys? Are you kind of seeing that already?
Yeah, 85 to 90% of the people that we sell houses to are buying their house for now, or for a few months, or for the future. They're not just buying it to come on holiday. That kind of lifestyle shift for, I suppose, the Brits, if we take the Brits, stopped with Brexit, because it became more difficult in order to come over here for 6, 7, 8 months of the year. So people then had to make that lifestyle shift in their head. Do we want to move somewhere permanently, or not? But certainly we look at our client base from Holland, from Germany, Switzerland, Belgium. They are moving here full time. They're bringing businesses with them. They're bringing investment with them. So the area is really changing, and it's changing every few months. There's a significant shift in terms of the investment into the area and so on. So that is having an increase in value of property. But, I think the statistical data, just to give you an idea of popularity, I think in Valencia, it was 11.8% year on year capital appreciation. I think in Alicante, it was 10.8%. So 11 and 12%. I mean, they're strong numbers, numbers. And
very strong.
There is no sign of that slowing. So if people are thinking of making that change, and the reality is it's a few hours from home, there is really very little I miss not living in my country. I'm British, and English, proud to be that, but we don't miss much. And there's not much with the power of technology that you can't get. That's the reality from anywhere.
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true, especially with the power of social media as well.
Indeed.
Good.
For all its good and bad points, right?
That's very true. Yeah, very true. Talking on probably one of our last points here, but talking on property prices, obviously from a luxury market, do you tend to find that the property prices on the Costa Blanca, are they increasing at the same rate as maybe the lower end of the market where we're seeing massive sort of increases? Is it more relatively stable with the luxury market, or are you kind of seeing a similar sort of trend?
I mean, it's a really good question. It's a question of inventory level and supply and demand. People want to be in key areas here. If you want to be in Moraida, you want to be in 2 or 3 certain areas if you want to have the best house. And there's just not the inventory level. We're not talking about being in the Costa del Sol, where we've got huge swathes of inventory and a huge amount. The Costa Blanca, Moraira, Javier, Denia, Calpe, Altea, it's not huge. So there's not a huge amount of inventory available. The luxury price points have significantly risen over the last 3 years. Really, our ceiling for, I suppose we call them our subprime or our super prime properties 3 years ago was probably 5 million. Now that's 8.5 million. So there has been a shift. Of course, there's been a shift in quality as well, and amenities and everything else that goes with it. So there has been a shift of improvement. But 20 years ago, El Portet, the Cape in El Portet, probably we were looking at 1.5 to 2 million. Today, there's property up there for 8 million.
Right.
So there has been a significant shift, and people want to be there. But there are only 20 houses. So if you want to be one of those, and you're going to have to pay the number. So to a certain degree, I think. So from that point of view, but again, construction of new homes has increased. So, land has gone up, but obviously construction costs have increased. Obviously, since the shift and since, post-COVID, everything else has happened, and the cost of living and everything else has gone up. So the cost of goods and supplies. So naturally, the cost of housing has gone up. But the demand on luxury houses, because we're not just working with such a small client base, it's for the luxury market, it is a truly international client base. We've got clients we've sold to from China, from the Middle East, from the US, from Europe, from Australia, New Zealand. It really doesn't. There is no filter from that. You don't,
and it only seems to be increasing as well, as we touched upon it earlier. It only seems to be increasing. I mean, the American market. I think the American market, and I think, again, we've spoken on this, and Simona, you probably seen this as well. The American market, I think, is absolutely going to boom this year.
Yeah,
and I mean, okay, you can blame Donald Trump for that, or you can say thank you, Mr. Trump. Either one. but obviously the golden visa, works for sort of non-EU, or works for sort of non-EU. But again, there's always new markets. I mean, the Polish market 2 years ago absolutely flew. The American market's going to do the same.
Last year, even the
Ukraine,
Chinese market increased in Spain.
No, it did. I mean, as I said, the 56 flags outside the school tells you that there's interest from all over the globe in this country. But this is the frustration. Everything can be controlled, so everybody can be happy. There is countless amount of land. There's a statistic about such a high percentage. I don't know the statistics, so I won't quote it. But there is such a high statistic of empty properties in Spain that can be converted for housing, and so on and so forth. But you've got to protect what brings the money in. You've got to protect what brings the economy in. And whilst, it is an expensive place to come and live, but that has value, and that has value to the wider economy and the local economies. And it's the local economies that are important, because that's what keeps everything good, and that's the driver. So and everybody comes here, spends money. Everybody comes, spends. They want to come and spend. They want to go out and have a beer on the terrace. They want to go and have a walk. And if they do that, they stop or they'll grab a coffee, or they'll have something to eat, or they do, whatever they do. And this area now caters for so many different people from all different walks.
Alistair, have you have you noticed any preferences with your clients? So basically, Dutch prefer this part of Costa Blanca, or the American go and have an enclave in this part?
Well, I mean, the Dutch love Madeira. That's one. I mean, well, my wife being Dutch, but the rest of the guys in our office are all Dutch. But the Dutch seem to love Madeira. It's now pre-Dutch, in fairness.
You can see why, though. I mean, I love Madeira. I think it's a beautiful
you
place.
can see the attractiveness of the whole of the Costa Blanca, but Madeira is,
you can.
You know, our office, where we're situated, when you drive into the town, our office is just off there. When you're driving along the coast road and the sun's shining and you've got a green and blue sea and then you're looking over the marina, it's, you know, it's pretty spectacular, and you can see why people want to be here, and people want to call it home. The Dutch have really bought in all areas of the Costa Blanca. There's a strong Belgian community in Calpe. Now there's a strong Eastern European community in Calpe as well, and also in Altea. Altea was always popular with that, but it's kind of spread out, you know, because I think the beauty of our area, and if I talk about the Costa Blanca, which I do obviously because we're a Costa Blanca agent, but if you want to drive, you know, if you want to go up to Valencia from us, it's an hour away. If you want to go to Alicante from us, it's an hour away. So the reality is everywhere's accessible. So if you want to say, well, today let's go for the day in Denia, we can do that. And then within 15 minutes on the motorway, you can be in Altea. So it's so connected. I don't suppose it really matters where you live anymore. You know, it's all about the type of house and how you want to live. You know?
Having said that, though, it is quite funny because every time I'm sort of in the UK and I said I used to live in Spain, and people asked me where I lived, and I said, oh, I lived up in Javier, and they went, oh yeah, it's only about 20 minutes from Benidorm. So actually, you lived in Benidorm, and I'm like, no. Let's get one thing quite clear. It's nowhere near Benidorm.
Listen, Benidorm. Well, the outskirts of Benidorm, it's just phenomenal. The last 5 years, Finistrat, Villajoyosa. Sure. It's just incredible. I mean, the amount of apartments, villas, townhouses, and they're all sold. You know, there is nothing left. You know, every time they build an apartment block, it gets sold. Benidorm itself is Benidorm. It'll always be Benidorm. You know, you can. It's like going into a time warp. It's exactly like it was 20 years ago. It's almost like you have the same people from 20 years ago as well, or maybe 30 years ago. But it is what it is. If you want to go and have a night out, then you go to Benidorm. If you want to go and have a sophisticated night out,
you go to somewhere like Javier or Denia.
Then you go to Javier or Malaida. Yeah, it just depends on what you want. You know.
Yeah, it does. But it is quite funny how people
perceive the area.
How people perceive the area. And they go, oh yeah, Benidorm. No.
It's better to say it's only an hour from Valencia than it is only 25 minutes from Benidorm.
Yeah.
It's got a better ring to it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Good. All right. I think that wraps us up nicely.
Did we talk about the golden visa? Yeah, a little bit, right?
We did. We talked about it at the beginning, and then we got onto why Spain was so. But this was exactly my point. It's like, okay, well, the golden visa is ending, but as you very rightly put, people bought property before the golden visa. People are going to buy property after the golden visa, right? The love affair with Spain has been there for 20 years. I don't see that slowing down. The stats don't show that as slowing down.
No,
right? They only show an increase. Mm-hmm. So it's all it's about is just making sure that people get the right information from the right people.
Get yourself a good immigration specialist, somebody that knows what they're talking about in the area. Talk about exactly what you want to do, and they'll tell you if they can make it happen either now or within 6 months or whatever thing, and then you've got a goal. That's what you need to do.
Yeah, exactly. Great. All right. Thank you very much for coming on board and speaking to us.
Chris. Yeah,
and we shall speak to you soon. Thank you. Take care, Alistair. All the best.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye.